So the first question is a pretty standard one I try and ask everyone. Tell me a bit about your backstory, because I think your backstory is going to be pretty interesting to some of the viewers.
Well, I grew up in the bustling metropolis of Brampton, Ontario.
Oh, there you go. That's exciting.
And I think it's a pretty quintessential Canadian story. I grew up playing hockey and baseball and video games. And my dad was an elementary school principal and my mom was a small business bookkeeper. So a lot of my sort of competitive spirit was really born trying to play against my older brother in sports growing up.
Nice. Now, I heard a story that you played a particular video game growing up. And I got to admit, I've never heard of this video game.
Well, as part of going to a hockey tournament, it was very common that you would go to different shopping malls in Buffalo, New York, where they would sell Nintendo games at a steep discount to the $60 that was the typical price in Canada. However, the titles sometimes were a little bit out of the ordinary. And so this one particular game we got once was called Wall Street Kid. And it was effectively a stock trading simulator where you had to buy and sell stocks and try to meet a portfolio goal. A pretty short time horizon. You had 30 days to meet your first financial objective.
Wow.
But it first got me interested in the idea of stocks going up and down and the reasons why and how to try to strategize in at least a video game format on how to win.
Now, I also know you didn't necessarily take a straight path from university into investment management. Tell us a bit about that.
For sure. So I was curious about the world. I thought when I was going to university, I was going to get a business degree and then maybe pursue law. And as I got into university, I learned through co-op about the investment management industry. And so I had a couple of work terms in the investment management industry, a term in marketing. And out of university, I had the opportunity to work in management consulting, travel the world,
right,
work inside a bunch of different business models, and put me on the path to perhaps getting an MBA, which I ultimately did. And for me, that was the first step. And so after that, I worked in the stock exchange space. And then by the time I went to business school, I was pretty certain that this is the seat I wanted to be in,
right,
for my real career. And as soon as I got to Wharton, I started working on getting into the investment management industry on a permanent basis.
Now, if I also remember, I think someone here at Fidelity might have got here a year before you or a couple of years before you. Joe Overdevest, isn't that
Joe.
right?
So Joe and I went to university together. We helped each other prepare for interviews, and it was actually in our final work term. We worked with each other on our last job. So working late at night on the Fidelity stock pitch is a fond memory for both of us.
Right on. Now, fast forward to about 2008, you joined Fidelity. You joined as an analyst, like a lot of our, actually most of our PMs have joined as analysts. So talk to us about that, joining Fidelity, what it meant to you, and your progression through, because Fidelity puts a lot of time, a lot of effort into, helping you succeed, helping people succeed, and teaching you and educating you along the way.
Yeah, I think when you look at joining Fidelity, so I went to Wharton for business school, looked at a lot of different options, hedge funds in New York, other long-only firms. And what I was really looking for was a place where I could commit myself to doing this job and receive sort of the coaching and training that I would need to be a successful investor over the long term. And so I landed on Fidelity and Team Canada within Fidelity as the best place to do that. And it's kind of a weird thing when you're leaving school and you're making a commitment that says, hey, I'm going to spend the next 10 years rotating around different parts of the market to learn each of them in detail, with the ultimate goal of becoming a portfolio manager. And really, it's about putting your head down for a decade and trying to be successful.
Wow. Now, along the way, you've probably bumped into a lot of people in Fidelity. Are there mentors or people along the way that really sort of helped you, navigate a tough patch, understand a market?
Yeah.
Because the market is a fast thing. It's a lot to understand.
Okay, so one of the great things about being at Fidelity is that there's so many different portfolio managers that you can look up to as an analyst to sort of find your way in the world. And the world's constantly changing, and at different times, different PMs can be very helpful. Like going through a particularly difficult patch, I had taken a risk on a stock, it didn't go my way, and I'm sitting at my desk being like, oh, every PM hates me. And Mark Schmale came over and he said, hey, you screwed up, you didn't get that one right, but the last thing I need you to do is to worry about making a mistake on the next one.
Right.
I need you to go after it. And so that was an example of a pep talk that he gave me when I was, really in a deep spot. But in terms of other stuff like covering mining in my first rotation, Darren Leckerkirker, really helped me understand the space. And as you move into other sectors like consumer and financials, there's just different PMs along the way who can help build you up. And I think in particular, Mark and Hugo have really helped me figure out my own way of thinking. They're different
Right.
thinkers. I'm a different thinker. And it's really important to figure out what you're really great at and the situations that you can see that other people can't see.
Right.
And the two of them really helped me connect my own sort of personal strengths to the opportunities in the market.
Now, what I do like about you, you are a different thinker, and that's really accumulated in your new fund, Long Short Alternative Fund, started a couple of years ago. Tell us about sort of the background, how that comes to be, or how that came to be, and how you manage that.
The background of the fund is, really a product of my decade as an analyst. I was always very interested in trying to find the winners, the stocks that'll go up, the stocks
Right.
that get every Fidelity portfolio manager excited about owning and participating in that growth. On the other hand, for whatever reason, because most Fidelity portfolio managers put stocks in two buckets, stocks I should own and stocks I shouldn't own.
Right.
And for me, I was always just really interested in this other bucket of stocks that we shouldn't own. Like which ones are just going to be okay but not very exciting,
Right.
and which ones are going to be bad. Where are the frauds? Where are the stock promotions or big disappointments lurking around the corner? So as an analyst, I just had a natural interest that kind of drew me to that area of the market. And when it came time to think about opportunities, I had this really strong track record in identifying sell-rated securities
Right.
and a passion for finding them. And so having a conversation with my boss, CIO Andrew Marchese, I asked him, can we do a long short fund? And 4 years later, here we are.
Well, and it's going very well. Great performance, great asset levels and everything, and really sort of hitting a mark with a lot of advisors. So well done.
Yeah, thank you.
So looking beyond Fidelity, though this is probably a 24-hour-a-day job for you, what else interests you?
Well, I have two kids that keeps me really busy. I have a 15-year-old daughter who's starting to think about university, and she actually enjoys many of the same things I do. We both
Right.
enjoy at least trying to surf. We like music and often have overlapping music tastes, which is really fun. So we're not battling as much in the car about who gets to listen to what,
Right.
because times have changed and she wins.
Yes.
Versus when I grew up and what my dad wanted to listen to was what
Exactly.
won. And I have a 13-year-old son who has autism. So, working within that community and supporting him and
Right.
trying new activities keeps me busy. As you know, I'm continually working on trying to get beyond being a mediocre tennis player.
Aren't we all?
It's
Yeah.
a passion, but
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not my livelihood.
Right.
And spending time traveling with my wife and our kids is really rounds out the free time that I do have.
All right, two last questions. What I do know that you are a voracious reader and listener of podcasts, a reader of news and things like that. What's sort of a podcast that jumps out top of mind for you, or a book, and then a surprise question at the end?
Sure. So in terms of podcasts, I think there's just so many that you can listen to. Like probably 10 years ago, I really enjoyed This American Life, which is
Right.
sort of stories about humanity. Radio Lab, which is one about science. And I would say more frequently, podcasts do take a lot of time to listen to. So I do, from a professional perspective, I really enjoy Invest Like the Best. You get to hear from investors with different approaches,
Right.
who have demonstrable success in their track record. And they really, as a community, people want to share their wisdom. So you get to learn what makes an effective team, what makes an effective mentor relationship. Now that I'm in the
Right.
PMC trying to mentor the next generation of great investors at Fidelity, and also to a lesser extent, but still really important, kind of how they're seeing the market today. But really it's that piece about how they got to where they were and what the key ingredients of their success that I can take for my own process.
Well, I'm going to look up that one. Now, my surprise question. I do know that you have a love of music, maybe even dipping your toe into DJing and things like that. Would you consider DJing a party coming up soon?
My wife keeps asking me about this, and what I have learned from tennis is that sometimes it's better to watch people who are pros. So I am interested in it. I watch YouTube videos about different DJs and the techniques
Right.
they use to try to learn about it.
Right.
But when I see what it takes to be, you know, that person on the stage captivating 10,000 people, I think that's really not where I have time or particular expertise.
Well, I guess that's different than you and
Yeah.
David Solomon at
That's right.
Goldman. So.
I'll just buy records
There you
instead.
go.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right on. Well, Dave, this is awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for
you.
being a guest on Behind the Numbers.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.